Here we go. It is once again the Galactic Fried Chicken Nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com. I'm Chad Brendel. Aaron Smith finishing up, pardon the punctuation. So, maybe do a little solo dolo tonight. Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. They're back to open 7 days a week. They are in Dayton, Kentucky. They have some of the best fried chicken you will find in the greater Cincinnati area. Chicken tenders, breasts, thighs, legs, wings, great sides, deviled eggs, fried pickles, you name it. Galactic Fried Chicken has it. And they'll deliver. You can get the sauce, a spicy chipotle honey mustard sauce that is fantastic. So make sure you get down to Dayton, Kentucky, get yourself some Galactic Fried Chicken. But wait, I'm not alone. I'm not solo. Tonight, we have a huge announcement for BearcatJournal.com. I would like to welcome and introduce to all of you the newest member of BearcatJournal.com. Let's bring him in. Hey, it's Mo.
It kind of reminded me, I don't watch wrestling anymore, but it kind of reminded me of like when the bad guy tag team would like make a special announcement that somebody else was joining their faction, and maybe it was somebody from the other wrestling company, and then they would announce that the guy is joining their faction and the crowd would boo. That's what that just reminded me of. There's no booing that I hear, but anybody watching or listening to this right now is, really? Oh, him? Man, isn't there enough of him? Do we need more? Him? Oh, great, yeah.
Yes.
Let me make sure
I need more.
Let me make sure I subscribe for all of 2022.
Let's give him a peek behind the curtain. You wrote a piece on New Year's Eve that said you wanted to write more.
And I haven't written since. So,
you haven't written since.
It's like the guy who rides the treadmill on New Year's Day. Oh, yeah. And then, by the time we get to President's Day, it's like, oh, yeah, I never kept that resolution. That's kind of what I did.
So I reached out on Twitter, and you actually didn't even see it.
No.
I reached out on Twitter and said, hey, Mo, if you want to write more, we've got this new board, the banks, where we talk Reds and Bengals and all things Cincinnati sports. And you also talk a lot about the Bearcats. And I said, hey, if you want to write more, then this is where I want you to write more. And we had very challenging contract negotiations. They were intense. They took us, 11 days, 12 days to hammer out.
Yeah. But
here you are. You're going to be the columnist for BearcatJournal.com, talking Bearcats, Bengals, Reds, whatever pops up into Mo's head.
Yeah, well, that could be scary. No, I mean, first of all, thank you. I'm excited. I do want to write more. I've enjoyed having a chance to, grow as a writer, and I enjoy it. I've gotten out of the habit of it over the last year or so, and much of that is my fault. So I feel like I've got to shake off some rust, and so I'm gonna get paid to do that. You are paying me, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
Not what the Athletic was paying you. Holy, jeez.
Yeah. I just funded my second home with that money. No, and look, I loved writing for the Athletic, and I, I'm a huge fan, and will continue to be. And I love Justin and Paul and Jay and C. Trent. I mean, I can't say enough about the work that those folks do, and I enjoyed writing for them, and I'm grateful for the chance to have a chance to get some writing guidance and just sort of see what a professional journalistic writing operation was look like. I think it's enabled me to grow as a writer. I'm excited for a chance to do this. Obviously, I'm a huge Bearcat fan, and as my radio show, as anybody who's listened to me, and you can be forgiven if you haven't. I tell you who I root for. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I root for the teams around here, but I try to throw everything through that filter, and hopefully the writing is good, and hopefully it people connect with it, and if you agree, great. If you disagree, that's okay too. But I hope that this is something that it just enables me to kind of accomplish my goal, which is I enjoy writing. Um, I enjoy reading good writing, which means I really don't read myself. Uh, and so I'm excited to kind of get started doing it again.
I'm excited to have you, and I know the Bearcat Journal family is going to be excited to have you as well. One thing I've promised is that I'm going to continuously and tirelessly work to get as much content on this website as possible.
Sure.
And I think having you as a columnist, which this has to be the only arrangement in the country where you have a wildly popular radio show. Like
I would
top
I
20,
would stop I would
you're
stop
top
short of
20.
saying,
You're one of the top 20 mid-market afternoon drive shows in the country. That's a big
yeah.
deal.
Well, that's subjective. I would stop well short of saying wildly popular. I'm not even sure I would say mildly popular. I think there's a lot of people who tolerate me, but I don't know that I would go with wildly popular.
Well, I'm your backup on that show. When you take a day off, as long as I'm available, generally I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
And now you work here at Bearcat Journal as well. The synergy is great.
It is. No, it is. I love what you do, and it's become the go-to place for Bearcat fans. And my first question for you was, well, I'm not always going to write about the Bearcats. In fact,
that's okay.
I often won't, and so I'm sure there's going to be folks who see like me writing about the Bengals or something who are like, "What the hell's this doing here?" But
that's why we created the banks. That's honestly. Look, UC fans most UC fans are also Bengals fans and Reds fans. There are some that aren't, and I'm sure they'll bitch and complain because what would a message board be without people that bitch and complain? It's part of how I make my money. That's what we do. But you'll be on the banks when you're not writing about the Bearcats, and when you are writing about the Bearcats, you'll be on the Carson Field message board, or you'll be on Jucker Court. You'll be on the front page. I think the synergy is great. And I think there's a place for UC fans to say, look, I'm also a Reds fan. I'm also a Bengals fan, and I enjoy that content.
No, I agree. And hopefully it's well received. And if it's not, well, I'm still getting paid, right?
You are getting paid. Every time you said we have agreed to so I protected myself here.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, you said you wanted to write, and then you had it written for 11 days. I'm going to pay you on a per article basis. Is that okay? When you determine how much money you make here, Mo.
Based on my current work ethic, that's not going to cost you all that much. So congratulations.
Let's go ahead. You're on the nightcap now. Have you had Galactic fried chicken yet, or do I need to get?
No, it's phenomenal. It's great.
It's great stuff.
I mean, I think that's part of the arrangement. You're going to pay me in Galactic fried chicken. So
I haven't
really excited here.
I haven't cleared that with Shane yet, but I guarantee if I said, Shane, we need to send some Galactic fried chicken to the 1530 studios, that would be taken care of. Have you got this yet? A bottle of the Chipotle honey mustard Galactic sauce.
No, I have not. That looks like it might have been repurposed Armor All, but no, I haven't. I have not.
I'm gonna have to get you some of that.
Okay,
Shane, we need to get Mo some sauce. Let's get to it, Mo. This is the nightcap. We do talk Bearcat sports here. I wanted to introduce your hire and also incorporate you into this new format that we have on YouTube, where we talk about the Bearcats every night. Today, we got some more good news on the return front. Wilson Huber has announced that he's going to once again be a Bearcat in 2022. And we saw Wilson Huber, as the season wore on, play an increasingly important role, especially in, pass rushing pressure situations. We've now seen Wilson Huber, Jabari Taylor, Malik Vann, and Javon Hicks announce their returns for the Cincinnati defense. While those were not the marquee headliner names of Ahmad Gardner, Kobe Bryant, Myjai Sanders, we are now looking at a defense in 2022 that has at least some veteran leadership and is not looking to replace the entire cupboard, right?
Yeah, and I think that's sort of how it had been positioned. Like, oh man, there's going to be this overhaul of guys, and there's certainly going to be some guys thrust into larger roles, and there's certainly going to be some new players and all that. But there's still, as you're sort of reciting the names, you're like, yeah, that guy helped last year. Man, that guy helped last year. And that guy really helped last year. There's a lot of that. Wilson Huber. I don't know that there was a player, especially on defense, that Luke Fickell was more effusive in his praise for kind of in
Yeah.
the heart of the season. He talked a lot about Wilson Huber. And Dan Horde mentioned that often with Luke on our pregame shows about how Luke was often going out of his way to talk about how much how valuable Wilson was and how good what he had added to their defense. And so yeah, the cupboard it's not bare, but it's not supposed to be, right? Like I think the program has gotten to a place now where a transition season maybe means you go from really 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 good to pretty good and still very good perhaps. Like it's a transition season doesn't have to mean you go from 13-0 to 3-9. It's
Right.
not it. And if the recruiting has been as good as folks on this website allege, then the expectation is this team should still be more than competitive next year. And then you start to see some of the names that are coming back and you get pretty excited. There were always going to be guys. I think we all knew Sauce wasn't coming back. We all sort of knew, okay, well, Myjai Sanders isn't going to be here, and Jerome Ford is going to bounce, and obviously they're going to have to replace Desmond Ridder at quarterback, and certainly that's a dynamic that's been talked about a lot over the last week. But I think I would have always stopped short of saying the cupboard's going to be bare, and there was always a chance that some of these guys were going to come back, and that's actually been the case.
We've also heard Lenny Taylor coming back
Yeah.
on the offensive side of the ball. We've
Yeah.
heard James Tunstall, the starting left tackle, coming back. We're awaiting the prima donna decision of Josh Wiley. But when you look at this team, all of a sudden, Ben Bryant's back, and you don't have a quarterback room with under 50 snaps under its belt because, Evan Prater has taken roughly 40, 50 snaps as a Bearcat, and Brady Lichtenberg, no. And Luther Richardson, his snaps were in the Tennessee State championship game that he won, but
Right.
you couldn't have a quarterback room with no experience, essentially, and you bring Ben Bryant back, and now all of a sudden we started to see these, the top 25s that come out the day after the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing Cincinnati in that 15 to 22 range. And man, the respect for Luke Fickell in this program is starting to really grow.
Yeah, it's you sort of step back from the disappointment of how they played against Alabama and
Sure.
oh my God, sky is falling. Look at all these guys are going to leave thing, and you sort of just take a 30,000-foot view of the program. And I think, again, we've been spending a lot of time in recent years, meaning the last two, talking about how good the recruiting has been. Well, that was always going to manifest itself with a roster of pretty good players. The Ben Bryant thing is interesting for two different reasons to me. Number one, I was a little taken aback by the shock that some people expressed that it wasn't going to be Evan Prater handed the job. And Evan may end up being a very good quarterback for this program. He may end up being the starting quarterback next year. But it seems to me like a lot of folks were just operating out of the assumption that there was going to be this easy transition from Desmond Ridder to Evan Prater. And I heard a lot of that and I read a lot of that. And I'm going, were folks paying attention when Desmond Ridder had the freshman season that he had, which was good, but he still had some growing to go. He faced a competition going into his sophomore season. After a good sophomore season, he faced competition going into his junior season. We can argue how seriously we should have taken the competition, but there was no proclamation in, during spring ball or after one season that, yep, it's going to be Des Ridder. He forced him into a competition. This past season was a little bit different. So the idea, if you're going to make Des compete for his gig, the idea that they were just going to hand the job to Evan Prater never made a lot of sense, especially now that there is such ease of transfer and so many quarterbacks in the portal, including one who was here. And I think the other thing that people tend to forget is, as much as Desmond Ridder is, and I hope always is revered for what he did here, we are 15 months removed from thinking, you know what, this team can't go to where we want it to go if
With
Ben
Desmond
Bryant
Ridder,
doesn't start
yeah.
playing quarterback. I mean, that
Yeah.
was, you know, they had that layoff between games in October or maybe early November of 2020. And that entire stretch of time after the third game against USF before they eventually played SMU, that entire stretch of time was spent wondering and debating, does it make sense to play Ben? If not entirely or exclusively, at least some. That was a thing. The year prior to that, should Ben start the AAC championship game against Memphis after a decent showing in his college starting debut? Those were things, and they were things based on Dez's struggles, but I think they were things also based on the fact that we all believe Ben had some talent and had some potential. And some of that potential was realized at Eastern Michigan. So I'm excited about what he could do and the way the quarterback situation may unfold. You could do better, you could do worse, and if it ends up being an open competition and Evan Prater somehow emerges from it either to start the season or at some point during the year, well then great. But if it ends up being Ben Bryant, that has potential as well. And I think all of us would have thought that. I mean, had, let's say Dez leaves to go to the NFL after last season and Ben's the guy, I think most of us would have said, all right, like this team still has a chance to be pretty good with Ben Bryant. And that's before he played a full season of FBS college football. And now he comes back with a full season of FBS college football.
What does it say to you that he did come back? The relationship that there is between this staff and these players is not phony. Ben Bryant, basically, they sent Ben Bryant down to the minors for a year, right? Like, effectively, they had him go down, work on his craft, you know, get the change up. You had to get the change up in order. You had to get some starts under your belt. But that he was willing to come back. What does that say to you about what Luke Fickell's building?
It tells me that there's something special enough here. I would imagine this season was weird for Ben Bryant because on one hand, you're getting a chance to play and you're playing well. On the other hand, you left a team that made the college football playoff, you know, and you never would have played.
Good thing for him, Dez didn't miss a snap of important time, because then the doubt would have been dreadful.
It tells me that neither side burned a bridge and the two sides parted amicably. And so here we are. And I mean, I don't think Ben Bryant would come back if this program was in shambles or coming off a 4-8 season or anything like that. I think it speaks to the respect he has for Luke and the respect he has for Gino Guidugli, but also the opportunity that he has here. It's a successful program. There's still going to be some guys to throw to. And, you know, let's face it, there's nothing against Eastern Michigan. There's going to be more people paying attention to the 2022 UC Bearcats than what was going to be happening in Ypsilanti. Is that where Eastern Michigan is?
Yes.
And then
Ypsilanti.
Fun to say, but no. I mean, so he's going to get a chance to, you know, play in a pretty big spotlight.
Eastern Michigan, the proud alma mater of our good friend Ryan Coslin.
That is true.
He's an Eastern Michigan guy.
He went to EMU. That's right. You're totally right.
He was pretty excited about Ben Bryant spending this year at Eastern Michigan, even though he abandoned us one game into the most magical season.
Maybe Cos will come back now. You know, maybe the door is open, right? You know, maybe Cos will follow Ben's lead. Not that the person who took over for Cos didn't do a great job, because he was thrown to the wolves this year.
Zach did awesome.
Did marvelous, and what had to be some very trying circumstances, but I mean, Cos is the best.
Okay, let's get UC basketball real quick before we get out of here. You were in Memphis on Sunday. You saw a team that played one of their better games of the season, unfortunately in a loss. They face tomorrow night an East Carolina team. This is not your typical East Carolina Pirates. They're 10-4. They haven't played a great schedule, but there's been many years in the past where they haven't played a great schedule, and at this point in season they were, 4-10. So they're competitive. They're long. They've got some ability. What are you looking forward to in this game in terms of Cincinnati continuing to maybe figure it out as we've seen over the last 2.5 games?
Micah Adams Woods, because people crushed him for the way he played late, and he wasn't good, but they were in the game mostly because of his play.
Yeah.
And you know, when he was a freshman, we would often say, God, you know what? He just sort of calms everything down. He did that the last 2 games, and it's easier to talk about when you make outside shots, and he's made outside shots. He has 7 threes the last 2 games. He's made outside shots, but I mean, he did a little of everything on Sunday. And brought that sense of calm that we talked about so much during his freshman season. I said this to Terry in the post-game show that earlier in the year, you know, you would look at the box score at the end of a game and say, Micah played 25 minutes and there's nothing on the score sheet. I mean, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who's taken up a lot of time, who was just not giving you a lot. And then take what we've seen the last couple of games, productivity. He's helped on defense. He's run the offense well. He's made shots. He's facilitated. He's grabbed some boards. You know, Wes talked weeks ago about our guards have to do a better job of rebounding. You saw that against Memphis. So to me, it's, do they have something here with Micah where it's, we look back at this as a little bit of a flash in the pan, or has he sort of figured things out in his junior season? And now, you know, is he always going to shoot it as well as he has these last 2 games? No. I mean, he's a 30% outside shooter.
What I would say there is, if he continues taking the type of shots he's taken the last 2 games, it is sustainable because he's taken good rhythm, wide, like clear, take that shot looks.
Right. And, you know, the first, you know, whatever they were, 5 or 6 games of the season, that was the big takeaway for me, is this team doesn't have a lot of bad possessions. And you and I talked about this. They didn't have many possessions early in the season where they're throwing up a heave at the end of the shot clock, or there's a terrible turnover or a shot clock violation. And it felt like kind of the middle of December, they kind of got away from that, even in games they won. What I've seen the last 2 games is a team that's getting good looks. They're not turning it over as much. They had 3 turnovers, I think, in the first 3 or 4 minutes against Memphis, and then stopped turning the ball over entirely, which this team has to do. And so the offense is functioning more. And I think Mike has been a big part of that. I also thought the bigs held their own against Memphis. And I know DeAndre Williams didn't play, but Oguama and Adu held their own against Memphis. They've become a little bit better of a post passing team. Early in the season, they had nobody who could throw it into the post, and they did a pretty good job. They've done a better job of feeding it, and they look like they have guys who know how to make a pass to a big underneath the basket. That certainly helps. And I walked away from the Memphis game, and you go, well, on one hand, you make 16 threes, you're supposed to win. On the other hand, there were times in the first half where it felt like this might get away from them, and they almost came back and won the game. And if that DeJulius 3 late goes, who knows how that game sort of, or
the Adams Woods layup afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but getting back to the original answer, I want to see another good performance from Micah Adams Woods, and then start to feel like, you know what, in his junior season, I could put him on the floor. He can play 27, 28, 30 minutes, and I'm going to get something tangible instead of what we were getting early in the season, which was he played 23 minutes. Do you remember any of it? And the answer often was no.
How many pins have you thrown this year now that you're back down on the floor?
I haven't thrown a pen. I did throw my arms up in exasperation at an official's call. Which game was this? It was
was it when the Memphis player took John Newman's face and spiked it into the floor? And that,
yeah. So yeah, it was Memphis. That might have been it. There was a call, and I just sort of like threw my arms up in exasperation, and it was John Higgins, right as he's signaling to the scorer's table who the foul is on. And as he's doing that, I'm like, I think he just saw me. And I can't believe my shock. I can't get kicked out of this game. Excuse me. And nothing happened. But for like a millisecond, I'm like, oh no. I typically do a pretty good job of controlling myself. But in that moment, I was a little upset.
All right. I kept you a little longer than I told you I would. I will also warn you, when I told you I was adding you to the team
Yeah.
and that we were going to be adding more content to the banks, Dave Simone was instantly like, "You think Mo wants to do a Bengals podcast?" I'm like, "I think Mo talks enough. I don't think Mo's going to want to get into the podcast network. But if you do, the door's always open."
There aren't enough Bengals podcasts.
Right? We need a couple more.
We need more of those. We need more in that space. Yes. Boy, the internet is just clamoring for more Bengals podcasts. Holy hell. How do we fill that void?
The funny thing is, and people have said this on the site, Dave does a great job co-hosting the BCJ podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk Bengals, everybody's like, "Oh, that's Dave's thing."
Yeah.
Which, of course, that's because right now that's not work. That's just a thing that he likes to do. When you make it work, all of a sudden it's a little different, right?
Here's what I've noticed about me. I am every Bengals podcast's favorite guest twice a year. Bye week and like June. Because it's great. Because, when we're around the draft, nobody wants to talk to me. When we're like breaking down the nuances of games, nobody wants anything to do with me. But when there's a lull, you could tell folks, "Oh, we'll get that Mo guy." I think during the bye week, I went on 6 Bengals podcasts and let's be honest, added nothing, added zero of any, at the Athletic, Paul and Jay have me on their podcast, and it's only to make fun of my Twitter feed. That's all they do. Mo, they read a tweet and go, "Mo, explain this," and then they have a good old laugh at me and we move on. But yeah, when there's, what was the when we had no sports during the pandemic, by the time we got to May, suddenly it was, "Well, Mo, come on and kill 30 minutes. Suddenly I was booked on every damn podcast when everybody was like, "Well, we're out of ideas. We've talked to every old player we can get. Let's have Mo come on." So that seems to be my role in the Bengals podcast sphere, if you will. And I'm happy to fill it.
Thankfully, nobody asks me to come on their podcast to break down my Twitter feed.
Boy, that could be, you know what? Maybe that'd be one of my columns, writing about your tweets.
I have to publish. I have to hit publish on those. So
yeah. Well, yeah, boy, you had an interesting weekend. That I followed along with that.
I was just having a little fun with the whole, the fight and the zip them up in the water fountain. And I should have suspected that was going to get blown way out of proportion, but it is what it is.
Well, I look, as somebody who was just looking at my phone all weekend, I got a great amount of amusement from it. So, thanks.
Well, you're better than Austin Elmore. He's got me muted. He mutes me.
Austin muted you?
Oh no, he's had me muted for a long time. Yeah.
Wow.
I know, right?
I've muted. I think I've muted like 4 people. I've muted terms now.
Yeah, terms. You got to mute it.
I've muted
conversations where it's gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I'm done listening to these 2 people in my mentions go back and forth.
Yeah, I've muted terms. I've only muted a handful of people. You and I have different philosophies when it comes to blocking people. I've only blocked maybe 14, 15 people.
I've unblocked almost everyone. The people that are assholes, I've left them on block, but for the most part, I've unblocked most everyone.
Yeah, I used to have. If you're just blatantly an ass, if it's racism, sexism, homophobic remark, I'm not going to watch it, entertain it. Fortunately, I don't get a lot of that. I have blocked 1 or 2 just annoying anonymous people. I don't mind parody accounts.
I don't either.
But be funny, be entertaining.
Right.
If you could mock me all you want, if you're funny and entertaining, I'll retweet you. I will say this. I have sort of promised myself, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I've sort of promised myself I'm going to not engage as much with, Tim Bunch of Numbers or, Monkey Dick 69. I'm not, The longer I do this, the less tolerance I have for people who just don't want to tell you anything about themselves. I won't block because I don't. I think if you're going to put yourself in the public space, you got to be willing to take on all comers aside from just blatant assholery. But I'm going to be less engaged with folks who just don't want to reveal anything about themselves.
My favorite new account that I keep seeing show up on my timeline is Mo Egg, and it's just your face in the shape of an egg.
I've seen that guy, and I
haven't really interacted with him much, but he's always retweeting or liking in my timeline, and I laugh every time.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen that. I haven't really done a deep dive, but it feels like maybe that account has some funny potential.
Right,
and I'm here for make fun of me. I mean, there's nothing I enjoy more than somebody who can make me laugh at myself. If you want to, I am here for that. That is. There have been attempts at doing that just they weren't funny, and so they all just sort of went away. But I did notice Mo Egg. I have to learn more about this. Was he the guy that said I look like Porky Pig? There was one.
I don't know that for sure. I don't.
Well, there was one over the weekend that did a poll question about me looking like Porky Pig, and I thought, well, he's got a point. I mean, yeah, I voted yes. I don't know if that was Mo Egg.
DeMar Johnson calls me Brad Chindle, which there's a parody account of me that's Brad Chindle, and DeMar loves it. He gets the biggest kick out of it. So whenever he sees me, so to whoever runs the Brad Chindle account, just know that Bearcat legend DeMar Johnson finds it hilarious.
All right, yeah, no, that's pretty. There was somebody. And this is like 5 or 6 years ago. It's probably the only time I've genuinely been annoyed at somebody on Twitter, like legitimately, like real life annoyed. They started the account, and my handle used to be Mo Egger 1530.
Yeah,
and they did like Mo Egger L530 or something, and it was the same bio, the same pic, and basically I would send a tweet, and then they would tweet the same, and I'm like, what's the purpose of this? What you're not getting any personal notoriety. You're not promoting anything. You're not making anybody laugh. You're just being annoying. And
my guess is they wanted to gain followers from that.
So I followed them.
Repurpose the account.
I followed them and I DM'd and I said, "Is there something I can help you with?" And the guy just wrote and said, "I'm just screwing around. I don't mean any harm by it." And I okay, fine. And then they went away. But yeah, that was the only time I've been just genuinely kind of annoyed.
So Friday, look for the first Mo Egger Bearcat Journal piece of content. Is that safe? Is Friday okay?
That's a lot, putting a lot of pressure on me.
Maybe Saturday?
No, ideally.
It's clearly going to be about the Bengals and what's coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I haven't really thought of the angle specifically, but
the Bo Jackson curse. Like, should Bo Jackson have been the ruler of the jungle instead of Icky Woods? We can. We'll workshop it.
What's the Bo Jackson curse?
I think I hired the wrong fucking guy.
Icky Woods is the ruler of the jungle. That's the thing.
Icky Woods is the ruler of the jungle. Yeah.
All right, that's okay.
Icky. They suggested on PTP that Icky has to find a way to turn the Icky shuffle into the gritty. Like mid Icky shuffle, he's got to hit the gritty.
How many times in his life do you think Icky Woods has done the shuffle? I mean, do you think he's asked every single day since 1988? If I mean, legitimately, he goes somewhere. Hey, Ick, come on, let me see. Like, how many times has he been like, I'm good. I don't want to do it today.
I remember he used to do some stuff with a radio company I worked for in a past life, and he would do it for money.
Well, as he should.
You want me to do the Icky shuffle? There's got to at least be a 20 in it for me or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's his his NFL career was unfortunately cut pretty short because of injuries. But I've always said, thank God somebody started calling him Icky, because if his name was like Tom Woods and he's the same exact player with the same exact dance,
yeah,
nobody cares. But
Steve Woods, the Steve
yeah,
Shuffle.
right. Yeah. Fortunately, he was Icky. And so, it wouldn't be the Tony Wood shuffle. Nobody would be doing that. So, that's, it wouldn't be my first choice, but it's better than some of the choices they could have come up with.
All right. This nightcap has turned into a night at a first date's house where you want her to like you more than she does. 37 minutes.
Not sure what that means.
It means that, you're trying to extend, like, hey, maybe there's something here. And she's like, you keep talking.
Yeah, you think you're going to get a hando from me.
Right. And you end up just talking.
You're not paying me quite enough.
No, I'm not. No, you're right. I don't bring the sandpaper. That's going to do it. Our newest member of the Bearcat Journal team. You're going to see him on Carson Field. You're going to see him on Jucker Court. Maybe some baseball on the Uke, if you've got some baseball thoughts at some point in time.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. I like going to UC baseball games.
UC baseball games are fun just as a non-work experience for us. We don't get to do many things where we're not working, and UC baseball provides that.
No, they just start the season so damn early, so they it's like, hey, I can go watch a baseball game, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's February, it's still 9 degrees out, so yeah, I'm
right.
Hard pass on that one. But
but Bengals, Reds, Bearcats, whatever pops into his mind, maybe a Knicks column, if ever.
Maybe what I'll write about, because I got today this press release about the local soccer team. They want to be called Fussball Cincinnati. I'm serious. Have you seen this? They want to be. Jeff Birding's been given a promotion that really doesn't seem like a promotion. Well, they're basically saying you can be involved in the team except for the actual soccer part, which is where his strength lies. I mean, it's good.
The team outside of the actual soccer part.
Right? But the press release was he's being named CEO of Fussball Cincinnati. I'm not going to call it Fussball. I just, and honestly, in my circle of friends, if you're like, hey, we're going to the Fussball Cincinnati game, you're probably going to be kicked out of that circle. Like we're not. Can it just be soccer? Like, why? I'll call it the pitch. I'll acquiesce to all. I'm not calling it fussball. What? When did that start? Maybe it is literally the press release. Jeff Birding, CEO of Fussball Cincinnati. I don't know where. Might be Friday's column. Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited. Fussball Cincinnati, Mo Egger.
Fussball Cincinnati.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
All right.
And, looking forward to having your content on BearcatJournal.com.
It'll be fun, Chad. Thanks so much.
All right. It's the Galactic Fried Chicken, BCJ Nightcap. He's Mo Egger. I'm Chad Brendel. Aaron Smith will be back tomorrow right here on BearcatJournal.com.